Good evening.
Everywhere I go on this island, it seems to me I find degeneracy.
Watch a few movies, take a few notes. See, it's a lot scarier when there's no motive, Sid.
We have a bargain.
Watch a few movies, take a few notes.
Do you feel the pain? Well, see, pain, I can assure you, will be exquisite.
Watch a few movies, take a few notes.
His entire work consists of violence, all the time, obsessed with the issue of violence. Mayhem, gouging out of eyes, autopsies on the stage.
Come. It is time to keep your appointment.
Good evening, folks. Thank you for keeping your appointment. Shall we try that again, folks? Good evening, folks. Thank you for keeping your appointment with me for the 113th episode of Double Feature Horror Show. I actually have a question for you guys about what's going to be episode 114, because we have a little bit of a dilemma due to me getting all ill with laryngitis last week. You wouldn't have wanted me to do the show. It would have been a proper mute show, a proper me mangling BSL show. You don't want me to mime my thoughts about this series, so it's very important that we just take the week off. You know, it would have been a disaster, but you guys got an extra week to do the homework, so hopefully it paid off. I see everyone is in chat. Hi, Mima, got in there early. We have an early butts from Maverick Hunter Zero. Thank you for that. Hello, Marina as well. The Alabastard, hey. Eadwolf, Zervus. And have I missed anyone? Dr. Prepper, good evening. I hope you're all well. It is good to see you and it is good to be back. This is going to be a bit of a packed episode. There is a lot to cover, so we will moderate the level of detail that we go into. But I'm not going to be doing this on my own, of course. It's a horror anthology week, so obviously I've got Murgoot in. Hey, Murgoot.
Hello. How's everybody doing? I'm looking forward to this one.
Yes, I'm very happy to have you because you saw this firsthand. You have got the nostalgia for this, whereas this is a fresh discovery for me.
The joys of being an 80s kid.
Yes. But it's not just us. We are joined by the regular co-host. He'll take you to the candy shop. He'll let you lick his lollipop.
Will I, though?
It's that crime guy.
No. TCG does not share his food. Good evening, everybody. Welcome. Nice to see ya. Nice to see ya. Good greebling to you, Joe, too.
Yes, hello, Joe. Oh, Joe in early. A rare treat. Hello. Well, wonderful. We're covering the Twilight Zone reboot, the first one, the first of, do you know how many?
487?
Feels like that sometimes. It really does. But certainly four reboots. No, wait, 3 reboots. 4 if you count the film. And
this was the most successful of them.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of renewal, definitely, narrowly, and by cheating a tiny bit. But if we cheat, we get to dab on Jordan Peele. So I'm 100% here for it. Yes, the most stunningly successful by far, definitely. Yeah, there was this 1985 revival, which managed to go for 3 seasons and 3 because it needed to meet syndication quotas that it had signed up to. The 2002 version, with Forrest Whitaker's involvement, lasted 1 season, and the 2019 version managed 2 seasons before being cancelled. So yes, this is indeed the most successful. TCG, had you ever seen this before?
No.
Yeah, same for me.
Yeah,
It's a fresh discovery.
This was a new one. Imagine my surprise when I booted up the first episode. I don't know if it was the pilot episode or not. It might have been. And yeah, Bruce Willis is there. I'm like, took me a moment to process that. And then there was two of them.
This is getting out of hand. There are two of them. Yeah. Sorry, I can't resist it. It's automatic now. I'll admit to you now, I was picking those largely at a whim. I got some criticism for the ones I chose, which is absolutely founded, because my reasons for picking the episodes were Wes Craven directed them.
Oh yeah.
One of them sounded like a spicy morality test. And for the last one, I just wanted to see how they did Button, which I think is a really cool story from Richard Matheson. And we're covering Richard Matheson on Trilogy of Terror, so that's the whole reason I went for these. I didn't have any greater design like that, and there are so many to choose from, you know. I had to just go on a whim.
It was very quite a lot to pick from. Quite a lot to pick from.
Yeah, definitely made more complex by the fact that episodes might have 2 or even 3 stories in them. Oh, so if you did your homework, guys, kudos. This was a big one, because it was also not just the Twilight Zone 1985. We also had some reading. We had a topic we asked you to do, and I joked about assigning you guys reading for a while. But this week we finally did it. I asked you to read Chapter 2 of Mark Kermode's The Good, the Bad and the Multiplex. If you did that as well, absolute bonus points to you. Well done. You get an apple. But we'll give you the gist of it as we discuss it. But before we do that, there's going to be 2 things. One, a massive welcome to everyone watching on the replay, because I forget to do that every single week. You folks watching this after it's live, hello, welcome. Glad you made it. Hope you enjoy it. Do the clicking of the liking and the subscribing if you have not done that already. I trust you guys. I'm sure you have. And the other thing I want to do is a nice early shill. So, but I would never dream of shilling first. I couldn't do it. So TCG, would you like to go for a quick shill?
Yeah, why not? I put out a new video on Friday alongside Horrorshow, where we on her channel we talked about Rope, a 1948 film based on a true life event, which took where I covered that on my channel, which was the story of Leopold and Loeb. If you haven't already, go and check that one out. Work is also underway for my next video as well. The members know which story I'm going to be covering, but it is one for me that I've been pondering about doing for a while, and I'm deciding that we're gonna go and do it now. It's kind of one that sort of hits on a personal level, not related or anything like that, but just it's one of those cases where I knew where I was when the story broke. So yeah, keep an eye out for that. I'm hoping to get that out in the next week or so.
Yeah, I think it'll be a good one. I remember the talk at the time. For my own shilling, I'll pitch in my half of that collab, the Rope. So TCG did a great job covering the real life incident, and then we had a discussion. We could not get it under an hour. There's too much to say about Rope. I was cutting it short, to be honest, but it's a nice in-depth discussion of the film, some of the genius of Alfred Hitchcock, some subtleties I think might have been missed by other people, and some details. So hopefully you enjoyed that. We love doing the real horror versus real horror series. I already know what the next one and that's going to be as well. I'll give you folks a hint. It is another Wes Craven film, but I won't say more than that. Now, how about yourself, Murgoot? I also put out a bonus video for members, which you can all see. And if you're curious about the bonus content, you can join as a member here or on Subscribestar. You can get in for, I think, about $2 or £2 is the lowest level if you want to see some of the bonus content. There we go. So natural, the shilling. And Murgoot, I know you're more of a chap who directs folks. So is there something that's caught your attention that you'd like people to check out?
There's my Twitter, and I've been going more joking on things and more Bigfoot stuff. Council on Future Conflict. The Future Conflict channel is one that I've been participating with. Staff Sergeant Sniper, and then my love of folklore and scary stuff, and that the Lore Lodge is a lot of fun. So those are my 3 shills for today.
Nice. I recommend you follow everyone. I think we've all got our Twitter in the description, so we're all worth a follow. All right, lovely. Okay, well, if you guys are up for it, we're so professional. We shilled, we welcome people. We asked for that like button to be thoroughly. Got a choice here, haven't we? Almost nuked. What do we want? So many things you could do with the like button following this week's viewing. But we'll get into the topic now. So let me just find that, which may take a while. Here we go. The commode question. I think I might have to move us to the side. How do we do? Can we see that okay? Are we happy with that?
We can see that absolutely fine.
Better.
All right, lovely. So what the heck is that? Why am I showing you a bombed out cinema? Why am I saying bombed out on YouTube? Guaranteeing this will be demonetized. Why don't I think of this stuff? Well, let's not worry about that too much. I have here some quotes from Mark Commode, a film critic, writes for The Guardian occasionally, very involved with the BBC. But I'm kind of a fan of his. I take his stuff with a pinch of salt. And I've read his book, The Good, the Bad and the Multiplex, a couple of times. And I remembered a kind of interesting claim he made in the second chapter, which was about how movies don't flop. If it's a big movie, it does not lose money. There are various reasons for it. But in the early 2000s, he's saying movies, they don't flop. It doesn't happen anymore. Various factors stop it happening. And I thought that sits kind of weirdly with us now, given how many of the channels I watch, Clipped Coin, Heel versus Babyface, with all the sort of people orbiting Critical Drinker, talk about these absolutely massive flops, right? I mean, you can pick them out the hat, can't you? What comes to mind when I say a massive flop for you guys?
Massive flop. I don't really know, to be honest. I mean, kind of put when I'm on the spot like this.
I've got Indiana Jones 5 up there.
Yeah, I mean, I think that goes without saying. I don't think that's doing too well at the moment, is it?
No,
I mean,
the Marvels.
I mean, are we talking? I'm assuming that we're talking specifically just like commercial flops, because I mean, if you look at films, I was gonna say, because if you look at films, I don't know, that have been panned in recent years, like The Last Jedi, for example. Obviously, that was absolutely, S-canned by like the critics and not so much the critics, but the public at the very least. But in terms of the box office, it was an absolute smash. I don't know, man. I think
we got an early shout about Little Mermaid.
Little Mermaid, maybe, yeah.
I hear in the grotto scene, you can hear the smoke alarm beeping if you turn it up, but I can't confirm. So,
actually, no, I have got one. Black Adam.
Oh yeah, Black Adam. Yeah, there's a good one. Live action Peter Pan, yeah, Peter Pan and Wendy, absolute. Yeah.
Oh my god, how can I forget the Flash?
The Flash, yeah. I mean, we've all seen these stories, right? A big deal being made out of. Oh, hello. I feel like you did the reading there, Mr. C. Absolutely. Waterworld is one of the ones that your boy Mark Commode talks about extensively.
And he
What I'm
mentions
getting is
Pluto Nash, which is just god awful.
I had wiped that from my memory completely. Completely wiped it. I mean, that's just now from a really weird era of cinema. The Eddie Murphy, multiple characters, and that was just a weird time in the early 2000s.
He briefly mentioned Norbit, which is even worse than Pluto Nash, if you can imagine it.
Yeah. Oh gosh. I mean, what I'm getting at is we've seen so many stories over the years of the mega flops, you know, Ghostbusters 2016, if we're going back that far, all the way through to what the Marvels is set to go under, the Eternals is set to go under. My brain mostly goes to Marvel products at the moment. We'll leave the ones that were coming out during the Coof season. That wouldn't be fair, but what I'm getting at is that there's this clash here, and we might wonder, is Commode right? Are studios basically unsinkable nowadays? Or in the era when The Flash can lose $200 million and Indiana Jones can be set to lose $300 million, is Mark Commode going to be proven wrong? I will throw that open to you guys. What do you reckon?
Some of the big name stuff, I think he's right on the streaming and the video sales and the just the streaming rentals in general. People want to see, even if it's only hate watching, don't hate watch. But some of the stuff he doesn't mention, which is like the video sales, he didn't talk about film insurance. If it loses money, they can make some of their money back. He also doesn't talk about investments to bolster the direct message. They're being paid to put a message in. There are also residuals from toy sales, residuals from food products, if you get it on cereal boxes, that kind of thing.
The George Lucas factor.
Yeah. The big one is the film insurance that they do to backstop it. It might appear to lose money, but they still make their money back because it's insured, especially if they know it's going to be, if it's going to tank. That, yes. They're also masters of swinging around on negative publicity and making it a positive.
Yeah, I mean, that's so how can I say, in Commode's favor. So the stuff that makes it seem like Commode is actually going to be right in this case, there are all those extra earning streams you've talked about. I guess he talks here about movies like Waterworld and Cleopatra, massive bombs, but when they got TV rights, they were able to get back a load of money, mostly because they had name recognition. And in fact, even the failure of them was so notorious that people at least had heard of them. And they were curious.
They heard of them and then watched them out of curiosity.
And nowadays, we'd probably say their streaming rights in addition to TV rights and the, no doubt, a bit smaller share of sort of physical copy sales. You know, we'd be talking Blu-rays and DVDs here, not VCRs as he is.
Did Commode mention? I know he mentioned Waterworld. Did he mention The Postman? Costner's
No,
Postman?
I don't think he did.
That was another high budget that was based off of. God, whose novel was it? I loved the novel, but David Brin. I loved the novel, but my God, did Costner butcher that movie?
I think I was tiny when I saw it, and I have kind of fond memories of it. Maybe it was just like I like a bit of schlock. What can I say?
But
Yeah, yeah.
watching
Those
Waterworld and
factors
then The
picture.
Postman kind of put me off of Costner for 15 years.
You don't see much of the chap these days, do you?
Well, he's in Yellowstone, which is a major hit, but that's television.
He's come back. I remember he got a tiny little cameo in a nice movie called Molly's Game. Very Aaron Sorkin. It was incredibly Aaron Sorkin. Yeah. And as you say, I think there's a factor that isn't explored too well, which is that the stated cost of movies is kind of a game in its own right, which I think we've known since The Producers, right? I'll just throw this out. TCG, I'm possibly showing my age here, but when I say The Producers, does that make sense, or is that what are you talking about?
Robotic.
Producers. Oh gosh, The Producers. It kind of rings a bell.
Springtime for the mid-century German.
Yeah, but no. I think you are showing your age there. No, I'm joking. I
am. I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah, it's so the idea of The Producers was that if you can have a massive flop, if you showed you lost money, you could actually recoup money as a lost investment. They attempt to make a humorously bad musical about the mid-century Germans, and it ends up being a smash hit. In the case of modern studios, that game goes to play in terms of taxing. So if something isn't working, you massively inflate the cost on it so that you can then nominally write off profit elsewhere in the balance across your company. Basically, you're paying a huge amount of money on tax on your profits. So if you can say that you actually lost a ton of money on another movie, then no tax, and you keep your coinage. And they like coinage in Hollywood. You know, what can I say? It's not to sound too conspiratorial, but sometimes you do look at a movie and you think, that cost. How did you spend 250 million on this? How is that possible?
I think a lot of people are asking that question of The Flash, funnily enough.
Yeah, when a movie's bad enough, they may as well just put tax break upon the billboard.
I mean, you can really, can't you? In fact, this is a key thing behind. Oh, guys, we're topical. I know we're just talking about Mark Commode and The Producers, but we're actually topical now. This is a major factor in the Writers Guild protests at the moment. Did you know?
No.
Oh, they want their pay to be calculated based on proceeds, not profits. I mean, they've got other demands, but the idea is, I think the writers who are inside the industry know a little bit about these financial games that are being played. And they know that they get their residuals based on profits, and the profits are being artificially nerfed by studios. That's why they want to be paid from proceeds. They absolutely know it's being fiddled.
Nah, they're just going to get replaced by AI anyway in a few years, so what's the problem?
They deserve it.
They need to learn to code.
Gotta exactly learn to prompt, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, Legal Mindset, Arch, Valiant, Yellow Flash have all covered the AI Armageddon for Hollywood, and it's hilarious. Some of the screaming comments off their videos are just hilarious. How dare you say that? It's trust me, the mid-range and the low-range films are going to be written by AI. You just have to have one guy who knows how to write in the descriptions and the instructions into the blanks and let the AI run.
Oh, totally. Oh, quick one. Jay, I don't know if he wouldn't be unusual in his student days in being part of that, but his father is a lecturer who is a very, reasonably well-known socialist, so it wouldn't be surprising. He did when he was Mark Commode when he was forced to review Sex and the City 2. He said it was so shamelessly bourgeois and capitalistic that he actually started singing the Internationale. But I got to admit, I did find that just quite funny.
You know what? When I saw Sex and the City 2 in the cinemas with my wife, funny enough, I did exactly the same thing.
It would drive anyone to it, wouldn't it? Dr. Prepper here, yes. This is what Red Letter Media talked about for Jack and Jill as well. Massive tax write-off. Yeah. Oof. It's going to happen. It's absolutely going to happen. So, there's a point, yeah. ChatGPT wouldn't have thought about it. But, to be honest, Bilbo, are we missing a trick? Can we just get ChatGPT to finish the darn books? I mean, we can't put it all on Brandon Sanderson to finish every fantasy series, you know.
Let's not talk about George R.R. Martin.
We'll leave it. I won't even mention that George R.R. Martin wrote a bunch of the episodes for the Twilight Zone 1985.
Well, he does good with short stories. I mean, Twilight Zone, Wild Cards.
I loved Wild Cards. Sand Kings, infamously good. I think we actually are going to get to review an adaptation of Sand Kings. I think it turned up in The Outer Limits.
Okay.
So, yes, it did twice.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to that one. If they nailed it, it's going to be brilliant. But
nailed the Sand Kings in the 90s.
Wonderful. So we've talked about some of the reasons Commode might be wrong. Might be right. But could he be, for reasons that he might be wrong, something he highlights is that the budgets can sink a thing. And even if you do very well, it still can't be enough because of the budgets. The budgets were really going up on blockbusters in those days. But the budgets are nothing.
Right about ESG. Sorry.
Oh, yes.
Little Gamba's right about the ESG scores, the overall investment, and the ESG group underwrites some of the film insurance as long as the film kept on message.
Oh, no doubt. No doubt. It is a more complex financial structure than Commode wanted to cover. But I'd say also, the kind of thing he's talking about relative to a film can do well, but the budget is just too darn big. Even if he ultimately says that doesn't matter, if you've got the right ingredients in place. One of the examples he should have given is the project that Will Smith did instead of The Matrix. Do we all know what that one was?
Was it I Am Legend? Oh, no, it was Wild Wild West.
It was.
Wild West.
Oh, God.
Wild West. Desperado. Sorry, Jim West. Desperado.
Yes. Wild Wild West, the original series with Robert Conrad and what's his name? I loved it as a kid on reruns. They butchered that so hard, and I watched it in the theater and regretted the whole thing.
No one remembered to turn the Branagh down. If you're going to have Kenneth Branagh in, you need to dilute him by at least 2 parts to 20, depending on the length of the film. We remember this from Frankenstein, okay?
Branagh was the only good part of that film.
Oh, come on. You never go full Branagh.
Oh, come on.
Hang on.
His Loveless
Hang
was
on. Jackie Chan, my dude, come on. We
Was
like
he
Jackie
in that?
Chan. Yeah.
Oh, I've forgotten this.
Yeah.
I mean, why not go for Salma Hayek? You know,
Wait, was she in it?
wasn't she?
I don't know. It's
We
been
need to
donkey's
look
years
up.
since I've seen it. But, I mean, you can't hate on Jackie Chan. I mean, the geezer's like, when I die, my kids are getting nothing because they need to learn to work for their money.
That was pretty hardcore. I think, chat, give us a fact check. Was Selma Hayek in it? Anyway, sorry. The chat does not need an excuse to Google Selma Hayek, I'm sure. So the point being, it had a budget of about 200 million, roughly what they spent on it, and it made 100 million. But,
yes, Salma Hayek was in there.
Nice.
But it made 100 million, which is amazing. But just the budget was cray. They spent so darn much on it. Your 100 just gets absorbed.
The budget is too damn high.
Yeah,
That's what you're trying to say.
I am going for that. And, you know, that's 20 years ago. We are now talking budgets of 300 million plus. Oh, we're getting Woods in the chat for Selma Hayek.
Oh my god, no, hang on a minute. No, hang on. I think I am getting it wrong. Jackie Chan wasn't in Wild Wild West.
Yeah.
Fact checked.
Oh my god, yeah. I'm such an idiot.
In fairness, you know, I got Leo mixed up with Busta Rhymes. So.
I don't even know what I'm. I don't even know what I'm even doing.
My intro to Salma Hayek was From Dusk Till Dawn, which I thoroughly enjoyed, and a lot of people absolutely hated.
I think.
I don't know why.
Fun.
Yeah, there you go. Little Gamba's actually just pointed it out.
Yeah,
Little Gamba had the best part in that.
That's what I'm getting it mixed up with.
I would also suggest Salma Hayek and Dogma, but this is dangerously close to being a thirsty stream.
Yeah, well,
how far are we off from a WWYD horror edition? You know, I don't know if I even want to tempt fate with that.
Yeah, let's not get me started.
Yep. All right. Okay. So what I was talking about against Commode, so something that might prove him wrong. They are just spending even more on the budgets now, like 315 plus million to make Indiana Jones at a time when cinema attendance is dropping. And I'd also suggest that we're in a culture where there's a very healthy, basically non-shill media who will savage this sort of stuff. And it kind of provides the alternative. I mean, how many of us have seen a film that we think is going to be a bit trash and we'll just watch the review boys cover it, right?
All the time.
Yeah. You
no
don't
hate watching. Don't do it.
I don't even watch. I think I need to not watch the hate watch reviews. You know, step over. I'm getting secondhand hate watching. But I'm thinking that contributes to the fact that it's going to be that much harder for them to make their money back. Because just instead of, Wild Wild West made today could have been a $300 million film. And if it still only makes 100 million or less because Heel versus every time as destroys it with the advanced knowledge, has those industry connections to tell you, warning, Kenneth Branagh takes a knee. You know, that kind of thing that just makes you nope out straight away. They have it that much harder to make up for a vastly inflated budget. What do you think of those factors suggesting Commode might be wrong?
I don't know. Just tell you the truth.
Yeah, it's way above my pay grade.
No worries. I thought it would be an interesting thing to just dredge up something from like 20 years ago, predicting that studios were basically invulnerable. And
I mean,
go ahead, man.
I was to say, I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, if it is something that they do, I mean, it's all tax avoidance at the end of the day. Like you said it, like you said at the beginning, it wouldn't. It doesn't sound too far-fetched for them to try and, you know, write off some of those profits in other areas so that, you know, they get to take home a little bit more. I mean, I would.
Creative accounting. I'm
sorry, but any this is, you know, I'm not in the taxation is theft camp necessarily, but I do think that if you believe that taxation is a good thing, then you have been pretty much brainwashed. I'm sorry.
The worst thing they do is when they show you on the payslip.
Yeah.
Give the old, and here's what you could have won.
Yeah. It's like when I hear, oh, a billionaire hasn't paid their taxes. Oh, how evil of them. I'm just like, I don't care. I don't
Pretty
care.
Chad
If Hollywood wants to make a crap film so that they don't have to pay they pay a little less tax, go for it. You know.
If you don't want the billionaires to use the loopholes, don't put in loopholes.
Okay. Well, food for thought, though. I thought I'd throw that out there. It's a take from about 20 years ago that is a little bit interesting in light of the modern cinematic environment. Is Mark Kermode going to be proven wrong and studios are, in fact, fallible? I guess we'll find out if we see Disney absolutely can Disney Plus. Yeah,
well,
we'll find out.
I don't think they'll get rid of Disney Plus, but they are in talks. They already got rid of ESPN, and they're in talks to sell off ABC to clear a shortfall that they have to pay. Oh God, who do they have to pay? They have an agreement that they have to pay off a.
They have to pay me off.
$7 billion debt to another company. I believe it's Discover Warner.
Oh, goodness.
So, because their contract is up and Disney has to buy out their 30% stake.
Ooh. Serves them right for buying everything up until that point anyway.
I can't say I'll be crying tears into my martinis. I am not going Mason Verger mode. Don't you worry, folks. There's a niche reference for you all. Yeah, years basically. I think would they get a bailout? I don't know. They are very useful. I am reminded, I've got to say, of The Guardian, which has not been. I think it actually made news in Private Eye because it was 1 year profitable. But is otherwise backed by a trust. I want to say the Scott Trust, which effectively ensures it doesn't matter if the Guardian makes money or not, they're backed. And I wonder if you think back to Twitter as well. It didn't matter if Twitter was profitable because it was useful.
Well, you could say the same about YouTube.
YouTube as well, yeah. I wonder if that's the wider story here. If Hollywood is useful, maybe it never will fail. That's a very cynical take. That's a fresh angle from outside of the Commode sphere. But I'll just put it out there. That's a fairly deep topic, you know. I think next week we might go back to Wheel of Fortune. Because I
Yeah.
really enjoyed it. Yes, when you're on, we'll do Wheel of Fortune with you. Always good. And I'll make it work more smoothly. All right, folks, that was our topic section. We will now go into discussing the Twilight Zone 1985. And do remember, folks, stick around. I do have a question for you because I need you guys to decide what comes next week. And part of that is not just because I missed a week due to laryngitis, but, well, how can I put this? I messed up a little bit, tiny bit.
You should never admit to your mistakes.
No, I don't know if I was going to get away with it. I thought chat might be eagle-eyed and noticed. We're doing the Twilight Zone reboot from 1985. One of the other things in this month is the Twilight Zone movie. And that actually came out before this. I had my chronology backwards. I thought the Twilight Zone was rebooted on TV and then you got a movie. And I think it's actually the other way around. The movie came out and was a decent success. And so someone said, hey, let's make a TV version, as has happened for so many a property. Not most unexpectedly, Limitless. Little movie, then a little TV series.
Did they?
Yeah.
Hang on, is that Limitless with
Bradley Cooper?
Bradley Cooper, yeah.
That film is a guilty pleasure for me. I really enjoyed it.
Great film, and the TV series was a lot of fun until it went off the rails.
Right. I didn't know they made a TV series of that.
Yeah, they did. It was only like 2 seasons, and Bradley Cooper was the villain.
He was actually in it as well?
He's made cameo appearances in several episodes, and he was the overall villain.
Right, okay. Huh. Hey, you learned something new.
Yeah. Yeah, so I will confess, I got it wrong. This was resurrected by the film and not the other way round. So I apologize for getting it wrong, folks. And it means you get a choice of, do we follow this with the Twilight Zone movie next week? Or do we go with Creepshow? Tell you what, I'll put a poll in right now. While I do that, Murgoot, as a person who actually has memories of this, would you like to tell people a little bit about the Twilight Zone 1985, what you remember of it?
I just remember that I was a big fan of the original Twilight Zone, reruns in the 70s and early 80s. I loved the movie, especially Dan Aykroyd. That was the big draw to it. And then when it came on, it was kind of plop myself down in front of the TV and do my homework and watch the revitalized version. And I thoroughly enjoyed it as a kid. I mean, there's some really memorable ones. One of the ones we did today, A Little Peace and Quiet, was one that really stuck in my head just because of memories of growing up in 1980s Cold War Colorado Springs and realizing you're living next to NORAD, which is the number 3 target for the Russians, and they've said so. Kind of, yeah, okay, this rings a bell.
Yeah. Oh gosh. Well, interest in it was renewed. I've got to just check here. I've just got to do one fact check here. Sorry. Apologies, folks. Apologies. Got it. I did have the year right. Okay, good. Okay. So it's resurrected, but it's resurrected in a very different format. We see that it's able to go a little further in terms of its content, but it's still relatively restrained. You know, there's not much blood, if you see any at all, and you might get the odd bloody, but it's still quite tame for the 80s. We also have the weird format that, from what I can see, was never repeated. That is, in only this version, do you get multiple stories per episode, which made the homework, a little more than I usually ask of you folks. They go back and forth on it. Sometimes they have three stories per episode. In the second season, they do drop it down a bit. So I think they realized that they had made a questionable choice, but I would say there's a real strength to them doing 2 stories per episode, in that they're not tied down to a particular story length. Something we saw in this one already was you could have a really short, snappy story, only needed to be 10 minutes, so you only gave it 10 minutes. So that's what happened with Examination Day. And then it could be paired with something deeper that went a bit longer, was a bit rich, explored a bit more, like A Message from Charity. And I thought that was a really interesting opportunity that they gave to themselves. I certainly know from the original series that they would end up, you could feel they were stretching the stories out a little bit. I think that's probably not unfair to say.
Yeah, I quite like that, actually, that there was quite a variation in terms of the length of each one, because I did notice, as you said, Examination Day was quite a lot shorter than some of the other ones that we covered. And yeah, I quite like that, because sometimes you get unnecessary padding sometimes with TV shows, but it also seems to tackle an issue that you kind of get with these anthology ones, where everything is you try and cram everything into a set time frame. And actually with this one they've just gone, nah, like you said, we only need a few minutes, we only need like 10-15 minutes with this one, so that's what we'll give it. And that one's a perfect example.
Yeah, I really like that. It's something that Black Mirror has started doing. For all its faults, it's kind of started embracing the fact that the story can take as long as it needs to take. It's on Netflix. It doesn't need to fit into a broadcast schedule. So.
Yeah, exactly. And I think there's a lot more freedom these days to do stuff like that.
Yeah, I fully endorse this. So I think the Twilight Zone doing that early was pretty nice. No one likes padding. You'd watch an episode of House, and it's basically you can time exactly when you can just time when the actual information's going to come out. Like, okay, you've got to fill an hour, so there'll be fake diagnosis 1, fake diagnosis 2, or I'm thinking
it's similar to no. What you just said there kind of sounds a lot like Supernatural as well in some ways, because I've said it before, but I'm currently going through that, and they do exactly the same thing. Like, you'll get they think they know what kind of monster they're hunting, and it turns out, oh no, it's not, and then they think they do, and oh no, there's another twist, and then there's I found that if you go back and watch it, it does feel quite formulaic in its approach.
I'll be interested if I notice that a bit more. I mean, where are you in the rewatch at the moment?
Just about to finish season 5.
Oh, delicious. Delicious. As for reception of this, just giving the quick overview, it started out strong, which I think you can tell. Oh, well, it's hard to know from where we are in 2023, like how big a star Bruce Willis was. They open with Bruce Willis, but they're also clearly saving a lot of money because the sets are really minimal in the episode. And they get Wes Craven in, who was fresh off A Nightmare on Elm Street. So he had just had a big success. So they've got a name star, a name director in. They were trying to impress people. The rating started strong, but they didn't hold.
Right.
They became very uneven. And I think it's fair to say you'd probably agree with this, Murgoot. the budget is possibly a bit of a reason for that?
Yeah, much like the original Twilight Zone, they ran on a shoestring budget. They'd get up and comers or the occasional character actor or mid range star, and then do what they could. Shatterday, I mean, it's the bar, the phone booth, and the hotel room, and the studio apartment. And I mean, the hotel room and the apartment are the same set. You can tell that. I mean,
Yes. Classic.
I still have fond nostalgia for the rotary phone booth and the rotary phone at the bar. In 85, touch-tone phones were very much replacing rotary dials, but somebody has to use the old AT&T 500s. Somebody just pulled it out of the prop room.
Pulled it out of their suitcase. No, wait, that's just the battery.
Oh, God. Some of this, though, did look quite expensive to me. I'm thinking of the crowd scene in A Little Peace and Quiet, and especially the crowd scene in A Profile in Silver.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that was hundreds of people. I was looking into trying to find out how they did that. Because so when they're recreating the Kennedy assassination, the JFK, it's weird that I have to be specific which assassination it was, but such are the Kennedys. They had hundreds of extras there. I don't know if they were just reusing footage from something else or how they managed to wrangle that, because that was quite involved. Whereas others, like, obviously, much cheaper.
Yeah.
Much cheaper. I think we see that it's a bit of a giveaway that Button was very much done on the cheap.
Yeah. And a message from Charity wasn't done on the cheap. Well, it was and it wasn't, but they used the Backlot Western studio for the Village.
Let's see if I can get that up there. I think that... There we go.
Yeah, I was going to say, I thought that one would have been a bit more of a higher budget sort of shoot.
It was, compared to Examination Day, which was basically 2 sets.
It was bare bones, really, wasn't it?
No, that was just futuristic minimalism, you know?
Okay.
That's how it is in the future.
I see.
One matte painting in an empty apartment, job done. Yeah, I mean, in fairness, we should say that most shows like this, anthology shows, because they need the variety, they can't just reuse the same location every week. They became absolute experts in scrounging studio resources. Oh, what the heck is the name of it? Oh gosh, it's an episode from the original series, and it's set in Dachau, and they reused the set from a Western that had basically been canned.
Right.
And they're like, "Don't tear it down. We can work with this." For the life of me, I cannot remember the name of that episode. Never mind. Anyway, so yeah, this is not surprising.
For Hogan's Heroes.
Yes. Yeah. Hey, look, why let a good set go to waste? In fact, that Commode chapter that we had for reading talked about this very same thing, about how the Cleopatra movie did its sets in England and then was a disaster there, so they moved location to Italy, and the Carry On team were like, hold on. They were getting in there, rubbing their hands, saying like, oh, don't tear those sets down yet, lads. Of course, that I'm on a roll now. Doctor Who reused the sets from Rome for an episode based around Pompeii. They can't resist it, Sorry, folks, laryngitis is still with me. There will be regularly scheduled coughing breaks. Forgive the croakiness. I'll try and keep this going. We are not going to go back into the Marge Simpson mode I was falling into when we were recording TCG.
Oh no!
Yeah.
So the wonderful editing on that video, you wouldn't have known.
Yes. So I suppose what I want to ask for, because we can't cover each story in depth. So I'll just ask, like, what is your overall impression of the stories we watched, especially compared to the original series? And TCG, would you like to go first?
Oh, okay. I think they kind of stay true to the original format. It did feel quite respectful to that. In terms of the stories themselves, I thought they were pretty cool. One or two of them I wasn't too fussed about overly, but no, I did appreciate the effort that went into it. I did really like the first one, the Shatterday one, and the message from Charity one kind of grew on me, just purely because we talked about the Salem witch trials before over on my channel, if you remember, a while back. But yeah, I thought it was quite a good little reboot, and yeah, it kind of does pay homage to the original series in its own little way. Yeah.
We'll do a quick overview of the selection in a second, but Murgoot, if I can go to you for your general thoughts.
Maybe it's nostalgia, but I really enjoyed it. I mean, even some of the piecemeal ones, I mean, they did a really good job of holding up to the subtleties of the original series, and the shoestring budgets, and but it was a good reimagining. And living through the 80s, it much like the original Twilight Zone, doing the subtle social commentary of the 50s and 60s, it did good commentary on the 80s, which I appreciate. And looking back and watching a lot of these, it's very good. As somebody who lived through the 80s and remembers it, yeah, they did a really good job with the social status.
I'm struggling a little bit in the original series being called subtle.
Compared to other things on TV?
Okay, fair play. I mean, I think, but I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I think both of them are very happy to whap that sledgehammer out when the message needs to come.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to criticize this for delivering its message in the same way. Might even be more subtle, come to think of it.
Oh, it was. I mean, Button's far more subtle than the original, but and Message from Charity was a good reworking of the Crucible and had a sweet ending rather than, well, the terror that was the Crucible. God, I hated that play.
Correct. The voting is so close on the movies, by the way. We're nearly at the magic ratio of 52 to 48. We're nearly there, guys. Oh, we're there. We're literally there. 52 to 48. We've reached one of the funny numbers. So I'm going to keep it going, guys. I'm going to keep it going. Maybe you can persuade people. Yeah, it's fair enough. We're once again, like the original series, we're getting the kind of slapdash mix of quality. We get the huge range of stories. It is not just horror. It is not just sci-fi, and I like that. You're getting a grab bag. But there are moments of poignancy in this that I liked. There are some sweet touches. There's also something I really loved in this that feels very true to the original Twilight Zone, is how they don't really waste time on explaining. So I do have a good image for this. It's this one. Something that is really strong about this is the premise for the story is interesting in there. So in a was it a bit of peace and quiet? Forgive me, I've streaming and I've forgotten the name. A little peace and quiet. Sorry.
Right.
The interesting thing is that she gets the ability, right? And she gets the ability because she finds a magic necklace. The magic necklace isn't interesting. What she does with the ability is.
Yeah.
Like in A Message to Charity, it does not matter why they can talk to each other through the centuries. It matters what they do with that ability. And I think a lot of shows these days fall into the trap of trying to give you a satisfying explanation for why the fantastical premise can happen. And ultimately, I think that's never really interesting. Like, it always comes down to, you know, a wizard done a thing, or a phlebotomy-powered explosion, or if you remember Lost, ultimately people are wanting to know what's behind the mystery, what's behind the mystery, what's behind the mystery. And it was another mystery and another mystery box, and then another mystery box. And ultimately, look, it's a magic light in a cave. Shut up. It was never going to be interesting, was it? The interesting thing is what happens in the fantastical premise, not what allows reality to break.
It's the journey, not the MacGuffin.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, exactly. It puts the MacGuffin in its place and it doesn't worry about it. Yeah, Shatterday, which you love, TCG, they give you a discussion but about Jungian archetypes, but no one stops and tries to pin down exactly what has caused this phenomenon. It's just a really interesting scenario that they explore. And like, no explanation for why what's happening would satisfy you, so they don't waste time on it. I just kind of love that.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, it just gets on with it because like the whole setup and bit, you know, the whole setup, the whole build up to it. Sorry, I had a really bad stutter going on there. It's kind of pointless. It's like, cool, she finds a necklace, in this one in particular. She finds a necklace and cool, and then she's like, oh, I can tell people to shut up, and they actually freeze. Okay, cool. And there's no oh, I need to find out how this thing works. I need to go back and look at its history and all this stuff. It's like, yeah, cool. Like you say, it's what she does with it next. Even with Shatterday, like there's no real explanation as to why there's two Bruce Willises at the very beginning. It's sort of like, yep, this is the situation. Let's see how it plays out.
Yeah.
Exactly. You know, at this point, we are quite far in, so we probably should, for the benefit of people, give a quick overview of what we did watch. 1 hour into the stream, this is EFAP style. Should we actually talk about what's in? We'll just give the quick Guinness summary, because there's too much to cover in full detail. But let's go for the 2-minute summary, Twilight Zone style, of what happened in these episodes. And TCG, Shatterday was your favourite. Do you want to lead with that?
Yeah, sure. Let's go for it. Do you want me to do? Am I doing the summary?
Yeah, give them a summary. So it's just this should just give people a flavour.
Okay. Yeah. So this one opens up with a guy in a bar, just having a few drinks and feeling a little bit sorry for himself, and he gets a. Does he? I can't remember now. Does he get a phone call?
No, he makes the phone call and he dials himself by accident.
That's it. And it turns out that he is also at home. How could this be? So he thinks, I'm having a bit of a moment here. Goes out and goes to a payphone and ends up having a conversation with himself. And this guy essentially, I think his name was Novin, wasn't it? His surname was Novin. he is distraught to find out that there seems to be this shapeshifter or changeling that's in his house, or what we can only assume to be. There's a body snatcher in his house, and it's taking over his life, and it's locked him out of his house, and he just wants to go home. And what ensues is like this guy's little plots to try and coax this guy out, and it doesn't work. All the while, he's back speaking to his mother again and reforging relationships, and I think it's a really, really good story, because of the angle in which you are viewing it from. I thought it was really clever, because you kind of think at the beginning of this program that the protagonist is the guy that who's in the bar, who phones himself by accident. But as you go through the story in more detail, you kind of learn that actually this guy is kind of like a cancer that's been cut out, and that he's actually the bad guy. I say the bad guy, but he is he's the bad guy, the antagonist of the episode, and you're seeing it through his perspective, and it also goes through the 5 stages of grief. It's also kind of like a redemption story, but you don't see the redemption side of it going on. You're only seeing the destructiveness from Bruce Willis's antagonistic character. One of the early bits that he does is he starts phoning up like grocers and companies that he's got like accounts with, essentially like just being horrible and cancelling deals and things like that. And just sort of like burning bridges in that regard. And you later find out as well that this version of him had actually gone to, was it Florida, I think, to see his mum, whose mum's died. His mum's dying, by the way, and he cuts the trip short so that he can come back to work, because he didn't want to be around her. So there's another bridge burned, and you also find out that he burns a bridge with a woman and her child, or he ends a relationship there. Whereas the other guy, the so-called intruder, has rekindled the relationship with his mother, got himself on the straight and narrow, has re-established a relationship with this woman that was good for him, and ultimately was essentially, like I say, redeeming himself. And I just love the journey, and I loved at the end as well, because as the story goes on, the character that you're following is gradually getting sicker and sicker and sicker, and then it turns out that actually he's nothing but a memory. He becomes nothing but a distant memory, and he sort of fades away.
He does.
I know. I've got
the TV effect of it as well.
That was hilarious. Yeah.
Looks a bit like Dexter, doesn't he?
A little bit, yeah. But he looked quite dishevelled anyway from the start. I mean, if you looked at him and compared him to his so-called intruder, his hairline was quite receded. It looked a bit scruffy, whereas the other Bruce Willis, had like a full hairline, was dressed smartly. He just looked presentable. It was it was quite a contrast. But yeah, this for me was my favourite, just because I really thought about it afterwards. I just really sat down and just thought about it, and I was like, oh my god, this is actually really, really good in terms of its storytelling.
Excellent, yeah. So, and definitely not what we expected to get. Murgoot, would you like to do I think you felt quite strongly about the next one, A Little Peace and Quiet. So would you like to give the quick summary of that?
Sure. One last comment on Shatterday. You can tell M. Night Shyamalan or Shyamalan definitely watched Shatterday.
Just a bit,
So, yeah. A Little Peace and Quiet. A housewife dealing with a lot of kids, a barking dog, her needy husband, is getting no peace and quiet. She goes outside to, she runs to the grocery store, gets into a fight, comes back home, starts planting a rose in the yard, and the next door neighbor is chainsawing part of the tree off. And I just want some peace and quiet. And as she's digging, she hits a little chest and opens it up, and here's this necklace. And at the next point, when things get overwhelming, she shouts out, please be quiet. And everything stops. And then she experiments, go, and everybody starts yelling again, the kids, the husband. And then she experiments with it more. She goes to the grocery store, and lady's rude to her and takes the last box of cereal, and she stops time and takes the cereal and fills up her shopping cart and starts heading out the door, and sees the manager, stops there, pulls out the money from her purse and shoves it in the manager's mouth and wanders home. And
it really stood out to me that she didn't steal everything. She still paid.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I thought
That was cute.
Yeah.
And then she looked up and down at the man who she definitely had the hots for. What could I have had? And then unstops time, and then deals with her family some more. And then some anti-nuke protesters come to her house and starts talking about it. And, she gets fed up with their earnestness, stops time, and plops them in the grass and turns it on. Not so subtle nudge to the end of it. Keeps going. And then at the end, she and her husband are kind of fighting over things. And then you hear on the TV or the radio, the emergency broadcast that nukes are flying, and she stops time and leaves her family, walks out of the house, and everybody's in the street, and cars are crashed, nobody's moving. She looks up, and the missiles are about to land, and one of the god-awfulest effects I've ever seen. Cheesy rocket on a map board.
Do not zoom into your map painting. For heaven's sake, do not zoom into the map painting.
But she's stuck with time stopped because, well, the missile will hit if she unstops time.
Mm.
And the reason I love this is just growing up in Colorado Springs, like I said, and living under NORAD, around multiple military bases, and knowing that, if things fly, the running joke from the teachers during the nuclear drills was run towards the light, kids.
Very dark. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure we'll get back to this, but I'll just say it now in case I forget. This episode really reminded me in an odd way of almost like it's a different way of approaching the Time Enough at Last story, where it feels like they're related, even if they do something very different with the ideas. But I'm sure we'll get back to that. So I'll take the next one. That is Examination Day. I'll be very quick with that. This is where you get a full-on sci-fi episode. And it's also the really short one. This is 10 minutes long, Examination Day. This feels really classic to me, a very obvious sort of short story adaptation. Basically, it is the future. A young boy is being prepared by his parents for a mysterious government exam.
On his 12th birthday.
On his 12th birthday, yes. They give him no details about it, other than it's really important. It was given away to me that it's an intelligence test when I was looking at the Wikipedia for various stories. So there we go. But they keep it extremely vague. They're just building up the tension for you. What is this test? What is it about? But everyone is the kid is relaxed about it. The parents are very shaken up about it. He goes for the test. One of your first clues is that he's given a truth serum to stop him lying, which instantly has you going like, hang on, huh? Stop him lying? And then they do an IQ test on him. And then the next thing we see is the parents waiting at home tensely for the news, and then they're told via an intercom of some kind that the results have come through and that their son had taken the test but was above the acceptable level of intelligence according to government standards, and they can collect his body in the way that they see fit. You realise that, yes, as Dr. Prepper's caught there, yes, the truth serum is to stop him pretending to be stupid, pretending to fail the test. A nice little thing. It's a twist on it, with very dark overtones and something that, maybe I'm a bit conspiratorially minded, maybe, but feels kind of believable.
No comment on our current educational system.
Obviously not. But yes, a very dark thing about the government's ideal populace. And I'd also suggest of a piece with the classic episode To Serve Man. There is quite a strong anti-government streak in the Twilight Zone in many an incarnation. We'll see if it sticks with that as we go through it. And that is Examination Day. It's paired up with a message from Charity. Or is it message to Charity?
A message from
Charity. Yeah. Who wants to do the quick summary of that? Just about 2 minutes if you can.
I'll give it a go. Okay. I can probably do it in a little less, hopefully. So episode starts off with a woman who is very, very poorly, but she's clearly from a time which is since past, many, many moons ago. Contrast that, you've got a guy in 1985 who is also very, very ill. And it's at that moment where they're both having their big old hallucinations that they form some sort of like psychic trans barrier, time warpy kind of connection, and they discover that they can actually talk to each other. And so the young lad from 1985, shows. Okay, sorry. The lady obviously from the past wants to know a little bit more about the future, so he shows her things like cars. Oh, by the way, guys, they can see through each other's eyes, through the other's eyes. So,
there are implications about this that are not to be thought of too much.
I know. Especially because she's communicating with a teenage boy. I'm just gonna, leave it at that.
Ooh wee.
But. Yeah, so he shows her things like transport, like planes, books, TV, that sort of stuff, and then she sort of tells one of her friends about it, who gets a bit freaked out. Anyway, it turns out that she is from a time where witch trials were quite the thing. In fact, I'm pretty sure she was from Salem. No, not from Salem.
Small town outside of Salem.
There you go. So she wasn't too far from there. So there was a witchfinder general that came along and was like, "Oh, you're a witch, are you not?" And then he takes her into a room and he's like, "Go on, strip down, love. Let's have a look for some of those witch marks." Yeah, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Young man from 1985, avert your eyes. It turns out by Deus Ex Machina, he's also a dodgy geezer. The man from 1985, or the young lad, finds out via a history book, and so they use that to their advantage. And she's found not guilty as a witch. And after saving her life, she decides the best thing to do is to dump him and never speak to him again, except to carve something in the tree and go, "Wait, look what I did for you."
Yep, nicely done. Of course, we can't go past it without saying that this is a big treat for Star Trek fans. Look at him, little Tom Paris there, about 4 years old. Look at him.
Hang on.
All right, that means nothing.
From?
Star Trek Voyager.
Voyager, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, bloody hell.
I think the actor may have also had a small role in Next Gen. I can't remember. I think he might have, but there will be people in chat and in the replay. Hi, people on the replay.
He's introduced in Next Generation.
There we go.
Next Generation or DS9 with the Bajoran conflict, and he's part of the Maquis.
Oh, DS9 then. I think.
That sounds like a DS9 thing.
There'll be Star Trek fans who know it better than me. Maybe if Where's Wylervin watches this one, he'll know. All right. Yep. Cool. All right. So the next one we then go on to A Profile in Silver, which delighted me. So it's got Andrew Robinson in 2 years before he would go into Hellraiser. Oh, also Andrew Robinson, later to be in DS9. There we go.
Wasn't he Perry as well? He was Perry in The New Adventures of Superman.
Oh, should we have a look?
He was.
TCG,
Yeah, he was.
do you want to check that out?
Yeah, I don't need to. I can tell you, he was Perry.
That's messing me up. All right, I'm gonna describe this one, and then I'm gonna look that up because that's New Adventures of Superman.
Dean Cain, Terry Hatcher. Yeah.
Wow. Oh my gosh, I have to look this up. Right. So A Profile in Silver centers around a chap who is a history teacher who we find out is a time traveler from an advanced future civilization doing a field trip. That alone is a pretty funky concept. He's studying JFK, who is a distant ancestor of his, and he's when it comes to observe the assassination, he can't let history be. He interferes, he shouts out, and the assassination is foiled. Secret servicemen notice that he caused a ruckus, pick him up, and he then gets to meet the president, his hero, and also distant ancestor. After trying to keep it quiet and stressing over what to do about it, his technology warns him that he's caused huge damage to the timeline and made it absolutely unstable. His agency, his civilization, has assassinated Khrushchev to try and reduce the damage, but it's still extremely unstable. Everything's going to collapse. We're talking TND, obviously total nuclear death for everyone, and it's not looking good. So, like the Red Dwarf episode that basically ripped this off a decade later, they decide that ultimately Kennedy simply has to die. But in this one, Kennedy is sent into the future, and our time-traveling historian takes his place and is assassinated in the place of his ancestor. Ultimately, we get a little word from his mentor, who has some terrible exposition, frankly cheating wildly, and explains that this was all inevitable. And that is your alt history JFK assassination story, A Profile in Silver. I hope you're getting like the view of how wildly different these stories are. And it takes us to our final one, which I picked purely because I like the original story, And I rate Richard Matheson Button. Murgoot, this one would fall to you if you're okay with it.
Well, husband and wife, down on their luck, receive a visit from a strange man who hands them a box with a button. Holy crap. This hailstorm.
That's a hailstorm. Oh, goodness.
Jesus, I thought it was a washing machine.
Oh, I will let... Wow. Okay.
Do you want...
I will let somebody else do it, and I'll go on mute.
All right. Okay, I can give it a go if you want, TCG.
Go for it.
All right, so Button is based off the classic short story by Richard Matheson. It is very tight. This one feels a little stretched out, but not massively. The premise is very strong. A couple receive a mysterious box. They receive an instruction. They receive a box which has a machine in it that basically just has a button. They can't work it out, but they receive a note with it that if they are to press the button, then they will receive $200,000. And someone they do not know at all will die. They have 2 days to make their decision. They can only push the button once. They fret over this. They fight over this. They argue whether it's real. Ultimately, the button is picked. The husband chucks a button away, saying it's absolutely immoral. The wife can't resist it. She goes and fishes it out of the trash, and then tries to explain it, saying, she's just doing it because, well, they have to return it anyway. But they're obviously sort of stressing over it. They're torn apart over what to do. The 200,000 would make a huge difference to their life, as we can see. Ultimately, the wife pushes the button. She can't resist it. She does it. She slaps it down.
God damn it, women. Women always pushing our buttons, eh?
Oh, ain't that the truth, DCG? Ain't that the truth? She slaps it down, and then at the appointed time, I think I've got an even better image of it. Not that I don't like the guy doing that whole scene with toothpaste on his mouth. It's kind of beautifully unglamorous,
Yeah.
I love that.
She was weirdly hot.
Ooh, controversial. Chat, can we get a wood check on the wife?
I mean, I'm just
yes,
gonna
it's
say,
right. Total Eve moment. Mr.
you-
C got there as well. Eve moment.
I mean, you mentioned at the start of sort of summarising this about stretching out. I mean,
Ooh wee.
God.
That's a wood from you, TCG, is it?
Well, it's to be fair, she was. It's her character, obviously. Her character was just mean, which to begin with was a bit annoying, but I kind of liked it towards the end because they were such diametrically opposite characters. I quite liked that that dynamic towards the end.
Yeah, she's harsh because he's working 2 jobs, and she's absolutely anyway. Chat is not here for it. They would not smash her button. This used to be a family-friendly stream, Anyway, she gives in to temptation, full Eve mode, full Pandora mode, full Bluebeard's wife mode, and smashes the button. At the end of the time, the mysterious man comes back to collect the button. And gives them the suitcase full of money. And they ask what's going to happen with it. He knows that she pushed it. And he tells them that they can spend the money however they want. And then she asks, well, what happens with the button? He says, well, it will be reprogrammed and sent to someone that you do not know at all. And the realization of what that means slowly dawns on them.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes, indeed. It's a it's a pretty notable variation on the original story, but we might challenge that. There's a well-timed notification from Maverick for anyone who's coming a bit late. Let's have that like button smashed. I want to see good likes on this. Ah, come on. We need more likes on this chat. If you have not done your duty, you better press that button. Not the dangerous one, but the one that says like. There we go. All right, and that is button. So you are getting an idea there of the wide variety in this show. Huge variety, and this is always a strength of the Twilight Zone that they've kept up here. I guess the difference being that you get wildly varying stories within the same episode. From that, it's interesting to know where to go. I wouldn't mind, having given people an overview, I wouldn't mind just going back to that first one, TCG, because Shatterday was your favourite, and I thought that's a deeper one.
Yeah, I don't know why I like that one the best, because like the button one was quite cool from the storyline perspective. I think it's just because I just really sort of sat down after watching that and just thought about it. I mean, I've even got it. I did have it up just a second ago, but like the way that it goes through the 5 stages of grief. So like at the start of it, you know, you're getting the. Sorry, I'm just pull them up just so I can go through this at the same time. So at first he's denying that this is actually happening. He's convinced that it's not himself that's in his home. It's somebody else that's broken in. And then when he comes to the sort of realization that actually, I'm not going to be able to get into my house. You know, he has this fit of rage, this anger, and then that's when you see him phoning up these companies and, you know, burning the bridges with them. Like I think it's like his grocers that he's chalking off at that point. It then moves on to the bargaining stage where he's sort of like hanging around outside, and then he phones him from another phone box, and he's like, you know, come on, can we try and like work this out? Is it, you know, couldn't we just like, you know, live in the house at the same place? And then obviously then he starts to get even more ill, which could then be interpreted as depression. And then finally at the end of the episode, when the copy, or I would say he's the original, who's just cut him out.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah, I'd say he's the original. But when he goes to see the character that we've been following, you know, he's sitting at the window looking out, and he has accepted his fate. He knows that there's nothing more that he can do, and it's just going to let it happen.
It's an odd story. It's psychologically deep, as you say, not just the stages of grief, but they're talking about Jungian shadow, but it's also a really positive story. Like, it's not a nasty twist.
No,
it's
not at all. It is a redemption story. Like I say, you're seeing it from the perspective of the thing that's been cut out, that's been holding him back, that's been burning these bridges, that's been hurting his relationship with family and loved ones. What you are essentially attached to in this story is that evil that needs to be cut out like a cancer, rather than, you know, the character trying to redeem himself and going through that redemption arc. That's all happening behind the scenes. You're not seeing that. You're only getting fed that through dialogue between these two. But yeah, you're seeing, like this is what I say. Like, this is what really sort of attracted me to this particular story, because normally you go through the hero story and you know the redemption arc would be seen we'd be seeing that through the perspective of the other character in the home, who would be saying, no, you're not coming back in, da 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 da. Whereas you're seeing it from the side of the thing that's been cut out, that wants to get back in, that's trying to get back into this person's life because he knows best, and he knows how to live essentially their life as a whole. And the other guy's like, no, I'm taking control now. You know, for too long I've let you hold the steering wheel, and you've led me nowhere but disaster. You know, you've led me nowhere to disaster.
It's quite a realization that the guy you start with is the unhealthy one.
Yeah.
Which, you know, you can say it says a lot about society that we kind of accept it, and then it comes to a really good realization. Like, this has got a strong heart and it's got a great message.
I mean, look where he is at the start of the show. You know, he's sitting in a bar. I can only assume it's a bar or, you know, like a strip club or something like that.
Yeah.
And you know, he's drinking alone, and he just looks like a state.
The street he goes, I mean, this kind of depressed me when I first watched it. The street that he goes out into it's just grim, and I was thinking, oh, this is grimy 80s society. I don't
Yeah.
like it. I want the 1950s Twilight Zone. And then it used it to something actually quite nice. And I think that thing where they're in conflict with each other, it's a metaphor made very real, of you being in in conflict with yourself, having a dialogue with yourself, which I think we all do. You don't need an explanation for this. This is just a visualization of a process that I think we all go through.
Yeah.
And then can realize that, yeah, I've done this. This is healthy. It's just made it very literal.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, definitely.
Jordan Peterson would be all over this.
yeah, I can imagine. Hey guys, so today we're going to be looking at Shatterday from the new Twilight Zone, the Bloody 1995 series.
Yeah. Oh, it's got such good touches, and it doesn't go where you would think. You might expect it to be going in the horror direction, especially, you know, if you turn up to a horror channel to hear it discussed. Sorry. But no, it flips it on you. And you get you just get an intriguing, mysterious, and ultimately, I think, really beneficial story, which is just pushing a good message. How does he fix his life? He takes responsibility. He connects to his parents. He faces up to hardship.
Yeah.
This is great stuff, and it's a bold thing to say. Turn away from the corporate culture. Take care of yourself.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Yeah. Murgoot, did you have anything on this? I know you were having hail problems.
Yeah, it stopped for now. I was having nickel and quarter-sized hail. It got a bit loud in here.
No worries.
Yeah, I really enjoyed this, where the Shadow's actually the hero. He's the one who comes out and saves things. It was a nice, sweet tale, bittersweet, evolving past what you were is a good message. I mean, you guys have basically said everything.
Fair play. I'll point out that, you know, I can get grumpy having such a clever audience, because not only has John Gorris dropped in the major comparison I was going to make. Nice. Yes, John. The Dark Half is a slightly cheesy movie, but George Romero put some interesting effects in there, and it's kind of fun. I'd recommend it. Similar idea. I think King bastardized it later for, I want to call it Secret Window with Johnny Depp. I don't know if I'd recommend that one. Dark Half is very little seen, but you get a similar idea. And Joe surprised me with a reference to a apparently really good Roger Moore movie called The Man Who Haunted Himself, which is apparently a much stronger version of the idea. So Joe has been A+ with recommendations, folks. So I haven't checked The Man Who Haunted Himself out, but if Joe says it's worth a watch, I would recommend you try it. If I can watch it, I will give you feedback on it, but that sounds interesting. So that was Shatterday. Murgoot, was there one that really stood out to you that you really wanted to talk about?
Well, A Little Peace and Quiet was my big nostalgia trip, and that one, very simple premise. A woman who wants to be selfish because she can't handle her problems. She's overburdened with people wanting everything from her and gets selfish with it. She doesn't think about the problems of everybody else around her and gets taught a lesson. I mean, that's the basic trope of it. It was dealt with well, but mostly just it's nostalgia and the fact that there were times I've been in times where I just want to stop time. But this is it taken too far. And it's the lesson is take the time for yourself. Don't be selfish about it, and help people out when you can. And this is just showing how far it goes. And the shoving in of the nuclear war bit made for a nice twist ending.
And they do ground that well throughout the episode, that they are mentioning it regularly. So it doesn't come completely out of nowhere.
Well, the radio, the TV, the
door-to-door callers, yeah.
Yep.
It's an odd one. Like, it didn't really have me early on. Although, you know, as you how to approach it. It's once again, it's a strong message. It's a wholesome message, although delivered a bit more mournfully. But in short, like, the message that we're all going to be able to relate to is the things that are annoying. You might get annoyed with something, but ultimately you'll miss it. Or you could say family aren't perfect, but you need them. Yeah. I think back to, like, how needy Gatsby was, you know, and you think, oh, Gatsby, I cannot give you fuss at this moment. My gosh, please stop screaming. I do have to work, etc. And we'd say all the time, oh, there's going to be a day when I would really miss him coming in and screaming for 2 hours. And now it is that day. You know, this really struck a chord with me. She ends up in this place where
your robot,
kind of ironically, yeah, she has stopped the family forever, and it's the only way to save them, but she can't interact with them. She's shut off from them, and for her to have any more time with them is just Armageddon. It's a weird inverse of that story, of that scenario of, you know, ultimately when they're gone, you will miss them, warts and all. It's quite life affirming, but it's told in a very tragic way. And I'd said earlier, it also struck a chord with me. It reminded me very much of the much more mean-spirited episode Time Enough at Last, where Burgess Meredith escapes a nuclear large-scale disaster, let's say. You know how YouTube is. And then all he wants to be is on his own and reading, because he doesn't value people at all, but then his glasses break. He gets the ending for, like, not valuing people, and then she gets a similar ending, but she hasn't lost the value. It sort of reinforces to her how important her family are to her. I garbled that terribly. Sorry, folks. I'd also throw in this episode gave me an actual scare, or like a horror reaction.
What, this one?
Yeah. Right at the start, it's when her little son, and it's nice to see them have such a healthy sized family. Her son chucks a snake on the grill.
Oh, that of course that would scare the vegan in you.
Oh, what? It was nasty. They show you a right close up of it. I can't find it at the moment. Where is it? Gosh darn it! Right, here we go. I had a proper shudder reaction here.
It's just stringy bacon, isn't it?
No! Shocking. Oh, years. Glad you made it today. I know games night is a Thursday, so thank you for dropping in, and I hope you have a blessed week as well. Always good to see you, and we'll have you on soon. We'll have you on in August. Okay. Yeah, this gave me a proper squick reaction. I was viscerally this hit me. But it's like the only moment of the 2 episodes that did, because they're not aiming to scare. I mean, do you find it a bit surprising that these episodes were directed by Wes Craven?
No.
Nope.
Nope.
No.
Okay.
No.
Ooh, that's me told.
See, I can't be shocked at something like this happening to a snake, bearing in mind that, you and I both know in the first Friday the 13th.
Yeah.
Is it Kevin Bacon, I think it is, chops the head off one.
He comes in, yeah, real
realsies. For realsies. I'm like...
I love the daughter's reaction to him bringing in the snake. They're just like,
They've
Step
seen
away
it
from me.
before. They know his games.
Damn it, Timmy.
Yeah. I should also add, for Craven fans, so I'm looking up my Wes Craven, The Man and His Nightmares biography. We do research here, folks. There's not much on the Twilight Zone. It doesn't feature big in Craven's life. He didn't talk about it much, but this is the reason he didn't do Nightmare on Elm Street 2, if you're interested in that. And Nightmare on Elm Street 2, obviously, a wildly different film to the original. He didn't direct it because he was deep in TV work. So, from John Woolley's biography, Craven's work for the new Twilight Zone, which aired for 3 seasons beginning in 1985, came primarily in the first season. He directed the show's CBS debut on September 27th, helming both stories in the 2-part episode Shatterday and A Little Peace and Quiet. The next week, he was back with 2 of the hour's 3 stories, Wordplay and Chameleon. Before the first season was over, he would also contribute Dealer's Choice to a 3-part episode, as well as Her Pilgrim Soul to a 2-parter. Then a year passed before his final contribution, The Road Less Travelled. It mentions that the idea of the doppelganger is something that Craven is interested in. Craven does, but I think he is interested in that, but a lot more symbolically, a lot more abstractly. So via The Hills Have Eyes, especially. But it feels like a bit of a reach to me. And then it talks about how he went into other TV work, ultimately ending in Deadly Friend, a TV movie. There we go. That's all the research I have on this. Yes. I've got to get it in, guys. I've got to cram it in. Yes, see, Mr. Gently Benevolent knows what it's about. He's right. It's all about me being a feature fact checker.
Wow, do you know what? I'm not impressed. I'm not impressed. Are you telling me that for 113 episodes you've been spreading lies and disinformation? Because you are trying to be a disinformation specialist at the Beeb.
It is slander. It's slander. Unfortunately, I don't pay my license, so they'd never offer it to me. It's an interesting one. I mean, we should point out that actually Craven will have been very happy to get away from horror. He never wanted to be the horror guy, so he'll have been chuffed to do these. I think it's nice to see him do stuff that isn't horror related. I also like that there's that what she does with the ability to freeze time is quite wholesome, or like it's low level. It's just dealing with little annoyances like with the woman taking your fresh, what were they, Choco Crisps? What were the cereals?
Yeah. Choco Crisps. Well, yeah, I think there might have been Choco Crisps. There were definitely some chocolate variant
cereal.
Yeah.
Yes.
This is probably something for English audiences, but Horror Show. Did you get Bernard's Watch vibes?
Oh, God, that's a callback.
Yeah.
Crikey.
I was just thinking, like, imagine if Bernard was a middle-aged white
Yeah.
woman.
Yeah. Oh, it was quite. Oh, that is a heck of a callback. Well done. My goodness. Yeah. It's nice and harmless, really. I did find the opening scene very stressful. Like that was a tough thing to watch. But
Yeah. I felt like I was getting like that. Was it the sensory overload?
yeah, totally.
It definitely felt like that. And the thing is I was watching this with headphones on at the time as well.
Yeah, it's stressful. It was a stressful watch. Craven knew what he was doing. But
Mind you though, like in all honesty, it wasn't too different sound wise to like to living with my parents. Because we've got, I think I'm one of, Christ, how many? I'm one of 7, and so
hang on. This is TCG deep lore.
yeah. So I'm one of 7, and mornings could be quite loud.
Bet you ran your parents ragged.
I'm the oldest, so I was.
You got out before it got too loud.
yeah.
Okay, you're prepped for this. Me, only child, so I was thoroughly overwhelmed by the opening scene. But yeah, still, it stays. It was nice that in addition to the poignancy and the quite wholesome messaging, the worst she does is have a cheeky little poke of a chap's bum, and then she has the grace to walk away knowing that she, she crossed the line a little bit. It was a cheeky sort of carry-on crossing of the line. I think like a modern one, I could see it being a bit vindictive, a bit meaner.
Wow.
And this was just quite nice.
I tell you what, I can't to see that blatant sexual assault on camera was so triggering and so offensive to me. If the show was still running now, I'd be tweeting furiously about it.
Oh, Natchy. Oh dear. As for, did you have anything else you want to say on that one, Murgoot? How you felt that landed?
You guys have covered it pretty well.
Yeah.
I'm still dealing with the thunderstorm and the tail end of the hail, so I'm just kind of being quiet.
Oh, bless you. No, it's one that grew on me. I was not massively feeling it at the start, but it really won me over it by the end. Just turning something quite silly into something with a lot of pathos. There was also quite a subtle thing that Wes Craven worked in. As she gets closer to the where she ultimately looks at the matte painting of the bomb, the lighting increases,
Right.
and it's a stark white light. If you notice, I've captured it in that still, just because I wanted to give you the impression of the dark where she walks from, and it's trying to give you the idea of the bomb blast, the sudden bright light. She's moving towards it. They're all moving towards it.
Hang on, so has the bomb actually gone off then? Because there's
No.
a scene.
No.
I was going to say, it hasn't gone off yet, has
about
it?
to
'Cause
hit.
yeah.
No, it's just to put the idea in your head
Okay.
that she's getting closer to the center of the explosion.
Yeah, but
Well,
is there a-
that's how I interpret it anyway.
Yeah, because I was saying, because the missile was still in one piece, and the thing that the thing that intrigued me about this, and again, I love the fact that they don't go into detail about these like, mystic like items and whatnot. Is could she do more than just tell people to shut up and then the world stops for her? Do you know what I mean? Like
She
it's
can
intriguing.
physically move stuff around. I mean, if she could get up there, she could maybe
Disarm it. I mean, I thought that, but I meant like in terms of like other things that it could do, like
She could.
Does it have a rewind button? You know, can she send it back?
I'm just glad they didn't go into that.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, she only found out of its ability just by pure fluke anyway. I mean, it's not as if it came with an instruction manual. So I do kind of think, and obviously I'm not expecting the show to sort of flesh this out again. I think, unlike some of the anthologies that we've covered, I think, while some of the episodes weren't as good as weren't as strong as maybe others, what this did do consistently well is it did well with the time that it had, but it always left you open to think about other things, like could she have done more with that and just not realised? This whole pause play function. Essentially she has a portable VCR in her around her neck. She could rewind, she could pause, she could eject.
Yeah.
yeet the missile from Earth.
About the same time as this episode, there was a TV show or TV movie or TV show, and they'd stop time to either fix problems or to steal from bad guys. And I cannot for the life of me remember the name of it. But yeah, she could be the perfect thief doing that.
Yeah.
And she's not. All she's concerned about is peace and quiet and getting her chores done.
And sexually harassing men outside of a supermarket.
Yeah, well, hey.
Yeah, you're absolutely... No, Maverick's absolutely right. I can still tweet about it, and I will. Follow me on Twitter, guys, at @ThatCrimeGuy. We're going to start a petition.
I'm also going to... They clearly spent a lot of money on the crowd budget here, so I'm going to budget shame them, as is incredibly obvious the second it happens. And it looks pretty decent in this end scene, but every time that time is frozen, it's literally just extra standing still.
Yes.
And the children were suffering. Like, I don't know how many Sunny B's they'd knocked back before filming, but those kids could not stand still.
But can we take a moment to appreciate that dog?
That dog was a good boy.
Yeah. And like there was no freeze frame on that dog. That dog was sitting still as well. Like you can see it moving ever so slightly. So that dog was literally trained to just hold position rather than them go, right, okay, we'll just pause that bit of film reel. We'll use
it's like the one of the cats in the Pet Sematary remake whose specialist skill was sitting and doing nothing. They have a specialist do nothing dog.
Sounds like my cat.
If she's still around, a waifu in the comments would probably tell you this. So in case she's not, I will drop this factoid. This little bit of information. Apparently, you can notice that stunt dogs are very happy to be doing their job properly. So even whenever they're doing it, they'll be wagging their tails. Even when they're meant to be menacing and barking and threatening someone, you can see them wagging their tails because they're such good boys and they're happy to be doing what their trainer told them to do.
See, that's why dogs are so much better than cats.
Yeah. Watch out for that in the movies, folks. The dogs merrily wagging their tails whilst looking at their trainers.
Oh, I can just imagine it now. It's like, am I doing it right? Am I doing it right? Am I looking like I'm going to tear this person's face off? Am I doing it right? Am I a good boy? Am I a good boy?
Yeah. It's a sweet one. I think it probably lands for you a lot more, Murgoot, because it's got that resonance, whereas I think for Brits, we're geographically and temporally a bit too distant for the Cold War stuff to land.
Oh, yeah, I was going to say. I mean, I don't know if this was just because of the episodes that you picked, but I mean, at least two of them had very, very strong Cold War themes attached to them, which of course was expected in that around that period of time. But yeah, I was like, oh, okay, this one's obviously got a Cold War theme. Oh, the JFK one. Oh, okay, yeah, that's got a massive Cold War theme as well. Very, very a very Doomer-esque message as well. The world's going to blow up, and obviously, nuclear
when
fire.
You grow up with the existential dread That's why the 80s was so lively, is everybody's like, if we're going to die anyway, we may as well party.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's also an odd one, on the JFK episode. It's an odd one because the idea of this absolute pivotal nature.
Oh my god! I just
JFK's
realized. I was looking.
Yeah,
I was looking at that. I was
going
like,
to bring this up.
I was looking at that, and I was like, "Is that Craig? Was Craig Charles in it?" And then I see Crichton.
So I'm putting this up here because I think we've got to be careful because one, it could be spicy. Two, it could be a whole episode in itself. But this isn't the first episode, as I said, to come to the idea that the JFK assassination is what Doctor Who call it, like a temporal fixed point. It's something that absolutely has to happen,
yeah.
The world is broken. Red Dwarf did the same thing would be more than 10 years later with the episode Ticket to Ride in season 7. In their version, JFK ends up taking himself out from the grassy knoll for his own good.
Yeah.
It's done with a sense of poignancy, of pathos, that they aim for, but it seemed odd to me that it's given this absolute pivotal, the world falls apart if JFK isn't assassinated, but it makes sense in a sort of boomer truth way. I'm currently reading Christopher Caldwell's Age of Entitlement, and he centers the early part of the book on how much of what would be called progress was kind of accelerated as a result of the assassination. So I can kind of see it.
Yeah,
how it is in the mindset.
All I got from that was JFK was a terrible politician, and had he stayed alive, he'd have doomed the United States.
Based.
Hey, that's what the show was telling me.
I'm just saying what I learned here.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was an odd one to watch for me. I mean, it's nice to, as I said to Murgoot before we started streaming, it's just nice to see an alternate history that doesn't focus on the mid-century Germans for once. So it's pretty much every alt history is that. It's nice to see it shaken up a bit.
Yeah.
Oh, hang on. Maverick, I think they might have in the 85 season, but I will try and confirm that for you. Oh wait, hang on, makes the world worse. No, I think they might have actually. Didn't Time Cop try that as well?
The Van Damme movie?
There was a Time Cop sequel where they addressed this. Look, I have some niche interests.
Which was wretched.
Oh. Something very trivial with this that I struggled with was JFK working out that the guy who comes to investigate him is his ancestor. I was not convinced.
I see here you're Perry White from the Daily Planet. Shucks, how'd you get me?
Yeah, there we go. Got him.
A great sound-alike, terrible look-alike.
Yeah, he got the voice down too. They don't look anything like each other, so I wasn't convinced. And you know what? I'm just gonna blame on once more some horrific writing in this.
Go on.
So I'm thinking of two particular moments, guys. So you tell me if I'm being too critical. The first one is early. It's when he's working with his tech, and the tech just starts speaking out loud what it will do in the event of a circumstance.
Hey, it was just being Ziggy.
Yeah, well, it's like, oh, okay, that's interesting information. I wonder if that specific scenario will turn up later. So it's a little bit of that ham-fisted exposition, you kind of knew what was going to happen.
Gumshoe. Oh, look, here we go. Gumshoe. Look, guys, okay. Hey, pal. Okay, pal. Put your hands up. You call yourself a time traveler, pal? Not on my watch.
He is weirdly chill when this guy is basically getting what looks like an IED ready to blow. He's like, just trust me. And the guy's like, yeah, fair play. The other bit I really didn't like was right at the end, the mentor comes in. I have got an image of her. There we go. She was really familiar. I couldn't place her. Maybe someone knows. But she comes in and she says, all I could say to him was this phrase in Chinese, which has a poetic reading. I was like, oh, that is cheap.
Barbara Baxley is the actress.
Okay, yeah. The thing of I said a thing that has some resonance in Chinese was so cheating. It's like, I wasn't sold on it. What do you reckon?
The original Twilight Zones.
Was she? Ah.
Episode Mute.
Did she play a Chinese person?
I don't know.
Weak. You need to do that Fu Manchu effect. It was good enough for Doctor Who and the Talons of Wen Chiang. Again, I have niche interests. If it's good enough for John Wayne. Yeah, so I thought this was cheap a bit. What about you?
Yeah, it's a bit. I mean, it was all right. I mean, I didn't mind it too much. You know, she was saying goodbye to a friend, but not in a way that hinted towards the fact that he was the one that was going to be in the motorcade, I guess.
It's a weird message. She says the past is unchangeable. But JFK going to the future is like a major change in our past. It does jar a little bit.
Also,
like for us, it's a change. I mean, it's consistent in the story, but
also, the autopsy photos do exist.
Yeah,
and he didn't look like Perry White.
Shooped.
Yeah,
shooped. It's all shooped.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Oh, I tell you, they're not my brain splattered all over the place.
Yeah. Anyway.
Can't be JFK.
No. Well, you can work on it. Your Alfred Hitchcock was plenty good. You know, I was impressed enough with that. And then I suppose the only if you guys have got time, a little bit on the button if you want.
Yeah. Of course, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh, sweet. Good. So I'll just be brief with it. Just I like the story. It's had an interesting adaptation history. It's, as I said, it's from the Richard Matheson novel. I believe in this case, was it adapted? Was it written by him? I want to say it was adapted by. No, it was by him. Sorry, it was a different version. A different version was adapted for the radio by Henry Sleezar, but this one was adapted by Logan Swanson, and it changed the ending significantly. So, I should get onto a picture of the button itself. Here we go. Apologies, folks. Apologies. And I can't even find. There we go. Here we go. So, in the original story, it does play out very similar. The wife still can't help but bop it. Hey, look, if you're going to throw in a Bernard's watch thing, I'm bringing out the bop it.
Twist it. Shake it.
She presses the button, but her husband dies, and she gets the money in an insurance thing.
You see, I thought that was going to be the twist. I thought that was going to be the twist because when it was like, oh, it's somebody that you don't even know. You could see in the show like that because they're arguing so much. I was waiting for the like, oh, it's like I don't even know you anymore, and then like throwaway line, and then later on push the button.
Yeah.
Well, that was the original ending. Well, did you really know your husband?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's somebody you don't know will be pushing the button just Mayor Winningham's eyes just going to saucer size, realizing that, oh God, I'm next on the list.
Yeah.
I mean, their debating of it is quite, it's wonderful, and I thought was very believable. The thing of the kind of rationalizations of it could be an old peasant in China,
Or it could be a newborn baby. Oh.
Yeah, exactly. You get it's quite canny. It's very realpolitik. The whole thing that actually, we do not do a blank slate. We do not do the veil of ignorance, get wrecked rules. The answer is extremely different if it's someone that we have no connection to whatsoever versus if it's someone who's in our in-group, if it's someone we care about and is close to us. And that sounds heartless, but ultimately Button Button can be read as a scenario about basically any policy.
Yeah.
And the real way people think, ultimately, you could say Button Button leads you, certainly in this version of it, with the changed ending, which I've got to say I prefer, it kind of leads you ultimately to something like the Golden Rule. If they'd gone with the Golden Rule, they'd be fine.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
It's difficult because, you don't really... excuse me, it's presented to them in such a vague way that the thought of it potentially being played out the way that it's revealed later on doesn't really sort of enter the fold. Like, I mean, what are the chances? Like, when you sort of put into sort of perspective, when you're dealing with like billions of people across the world, it's like, if it was just a game of random chance, like, what are the odds that the person who takes that is going to push a button and I'm going to die? Like, there's billions of people. But then when you contrast that to what he says at the end, and when he sort of really emphasizes, like, I'm going to give this to somebody that you don't even know, you've never met in your life, and with that little sort of Jonathan Frakes-esque grin after he makes a corny but wonderful pun on Beyond Belief, Fact or Fiction, which we have to cover here at some point.
You choose an episode, I'll go for it.
Yeah, I could think of a few.
Jonathan Frakes, huh?
Oh yeah.
Oh God.
Yeah. What do you mean, oh God? He's a geezer. We like Jonathan Frakes in our house.
Yeah, we're fond of Frakes.
Yeah. But yeah. I think what was I've sort of lost my train of thought now. What was I saying? I was saying that she's kind of alright.
You talk about the chances when it's random chance, almost in the Stalin style. A million dead is a statistic. That kind of idea. It's rationalized. It's abstract. Yeah, sure. Smash that button.
Smash that button. Smash that like button, and the random person that you don't even know will die. So when it's put into that sort of perspective, it kind of does feel like an easier choice. But again, when you sort of drill that conversation down, and it was quite cool actually, because when the guy turns around and he's like, it could be a newborn baby, even I stopped for a second. I was like, oh wait, yeah, it could be. It's like, I don't have to know that child's family to know that pushing that button wouldn't exactly be a very nice thing to do, and not something I would feel comfortable doing if I knew that she's she's right. People die every day, yada yada. But you have to know that when you're pushing that button, you're responsible for that one. So you best hope that you're pushing the button on someone who is like doing a very long stretch inside for terrible crimes that are irredeemable, that would have seen them swinging from a short rope not too long ago. That's kind of like the ideal one. But then newborn. No. Suddenly the money doesn't feel worth it.
Yeah, I mean, you can imagine 1,000 first-year philosophy students there are trying to break the scenario down to whether you're active or passive in it. If you're actively pressing the button, it's condemnable. But you don't have a duty to not press the button. So it would be fine if you naturally had the 200,000 and the button was to stop it leaving you. People would break it down that way. But I'd probably go against the message of this, because I think the key thing is actually closeness. And as I say, in a way, we do all make this decision quite frequently, or this dynamic, and it's kind of okay. You can think of all kinds of scenarios. We don't even have to be that abstract. There will be an election next year, and you'll basically get the scenario where someone says, "Look, TCG, I've got to take a ton of your money, or some Peeps car kit." And you don't want to sound like an a-hole, but it's kind of like, "Oh, but I need that."
Or we're going to take a bunch of your money, but one less person isn't going to have that dinghy.
I've got terrible news for you. If you press this button,
you're screwed either way.
You get this money that we were going to tax off you, but I'm afraid some hotels will have to do regular business. It's like, what can I say? I don't think it's being cast as scurrilous, but I think actually making a particularist moral decision is actually kind of normal and fine.
Which is why I've taken the correct moral position and decided to abstain from voting. It is all a big con, ladies and gentlemen. It's all a big con.
Yeah, I think we are all uniparty disrespecters around here.
It's all a joke, right? I'm sorry. I'm just gonna have a little tiny rant.
Oh, you rock on.
Because guys, right? If you haven't realised by now, everybody whinges and moans about the big 2 or 3 parties in their respective country, and yet every single bloody time you tick the box next to the one you hate the least and reject any that tries to form to create any kind of actual change, because whether we like it or not, the normies trust the system too much to change. They are really the real conservatives, because they're conserving the corruption.
Oh, nice.
Same twat, different colour tie.
Yeah, I've got to say, I think 2019 was probably my last one. 80 majority.
I don't even think I voted then.
No. Well. So there we go. There's you know what? On this channel, we like to do the unexpected. On Gerald's game, we came out pro Gerald. And here we are telling you thoroughly, you know what? You smash that button. You get that bread. Secure the bag,
Boom, boom.
As I said, if we went into big depth on absolutely all of these, we would be doing a 4-hour stream. I wanted to give you an overview of what we had in this. I think I've warmed to it over the course of discussing this. I've warmed up to it quite a bit. I think next time I've got a quiet day, maybe next time I've got a sick day, if laryngitis comes back, I'm really crossing my fingers that it doesn't. But next time I'm having a do nothing day, I think I might just sit down and pop on the YouTube playlist with these. I'll happily roll the dice on this one, to be honest.
Sounds good.
Yeah. I'm warm to it. Was there anything else in particular that you guys wanted to say, or should we go to scores and closing thoughts?
Sorry, hacking me guts up there. No, I've got nothing else to add at this stage.
Neither do I. Scores it is.
All right, sweet. I tell you what, there's 6 stories, so it'd be a bit unwieldy. So let's have favourite and least favourite, and let's go for an overall traditional burger score for the Twilight Zone 1985. And Murgoot, would you like to give your closing thoughts and scores in that format, please?
Hold on.
Oh my goodness! All right, tell you what, I'll go and we'll wait to see.
In between Thunderbolts, let me just say, yeah, we've got a real thunder boomer here. Favorite episode, just due to nostalgia and it's well written, is A Little Peace and Quiet. Least favorite was Silver.
Silver, yeah.
Piece of Silver, just because it was okay, but it didn't do much for me.
Okay. Yeah, fair play. I can go with that a lot. It didn't have much emotional resonance for me. And it was very boomer truth.
Overall, I'd say give it an 8. Some were better, some were worse, and averaged out to about an 8 burger.
I think that's fair. We'll see how that lines up with chat's reception of it. How about yourself, TCG?
Yeah, so I mean, I thought it was pretty good. I thought it was a pretty good little show. I say because of the time, and probably more to do with the episodes that you recommended. There was a bit of a theme, sort of catching on Cold War wise. But yeah, my favourite one, as I said earlier, was that Shatterday one. I really liked the sort of approach that they took to that story. I wasn't that fussed about Examination Day, just because I think I could see it coming from a mile off. But yeah, I mean, if Button would probably be a close second as well. And of course, a message from Charity, just because of the whole witch trial thing and the stream that I'd done a little while back on it. I do enjoy a little bit of lore about that, and I actually do appreciate. What I would say is I do appreciate the authenticity of the interrogation that the witch doctor went through. You know, the whole. Now, I know he was being a bit. I know they're sort of portraying him as being a bit pervy, which obviously he was going to be. But that was something that was relatively commonplace, as well as like looking for the witch marks, like the witches' marks, because they. Without intentionally, without wanting to intentionally sound crude, they were very thorough when they did those inspections. Which is something that they sort of allude to. And yeah, some of the questions that he asked, sort of reminiscent from the research. I'm surprised he didn't pull out the old cake. Oh, what was it called? What was that cake called? It was a witch cake, wasn't it?
Oh, it's not ringing a bell.
Oh, you remember? It was the one where I had Mr. D dressed up in an apron. I love witch cake. Yeah, it was a witch cake. Rye, ash, and dogweed. Yeah. Anyway, I'm digressing. I'm surprised they didn't. I'm surprised they didn't produce that. But yeah. Anyway, yeah, like a few recognisable faces, which was quite cool. Yeah, I'd say overall it was probably a good solid sort of 7.5, 8. I'll push to an 8 because I'm feeling quite generous.
Well, that's generous of you.
Yeah, not a lot of ketchup. A little bit of cheese on some of the episodes. But yeah, it was kind of like your sort of run-of-the-mill diner burger that you get. Powdered bun. Yeah, it's all right.
Okay. That's all fair. All right. I'm seeing a weird thing. A load of chats are disappearing. That's a weird one.
Oh, chat's disappearing.
Chat's messing up. I think chat is stalled. So if you're sending stuff through, folks, it might take a while to come through. Something is weird in the back end. That's what she said.
Wait.
I think 8's fine. I can't disagree with that. And it sounds like you've actually got quite a nice cluster of things towards the top. So I like that. That's warmed my heart, TCG.
Yeah, I'd say I mean, basically, what was recommended was at the end of the day very watchable. You know, and if I was to sit down and watch more, I would gladly do so. Very much like what we did, very much like the originals that we covered not too long ago. I would have absolutely sat down and watched more of them if I had time.
Nice. Next sick day, mate.
Yeah, exactly.
Actually, you'll be on Supernatural a long time, but
well, yeah, I think that I'm on the last episode for season 5, so I've still got another 10 seasons to go.
Absolute beauty. All right. Well, as for me, I thought I was originally going to go with the Examination Day just because it's short, sweet. It's kind of classic, what I expect from Twilight Zone. Although it does have a touch of, what was it, the Scary Door, the Futurama version. I remember Lil Gamba, was it Lil Gamba, I think, said that you saw it first through the parody. That the old Harry special. I can't remember who said that, but it cracked me up. I think I probably come down to a message. I'm torn between a message to charity, possibly Button as a favorite. There's something really sweet about Message to Charity. There's a little bit of like modern paradigm in there, but lots of stuff they avoided and just sweet acting. We didn't actually show earlier, but also the cast was great. Not just the first Star Trek guy, but we have a second Star Trek guy. We had James Cromwell, who you will know from Star Trek First Contact, turned up as Charity's dad.
Yes, of course.
Yeah, later to be in Babe, where most of us saw him first.
Yeah.
He just died past week.
Oh, did he?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, no way.
Oh.
F's in the chat.
He's an interesting chap. Yeah, F's in the chat for James Cromwell. Yeah, he went to be quite a feisty vegan activist back in his later years, let me tell you. Yeah, I always like seeing him chat with a lot of presence. Yeah, it was good to see him smack a few guys around. So I think I do end up liking this because it had time to develop the story a lot more. I think ultimately I do have to... The slight hamminess around Button, even if I do really like some of the changes it made. So I probably end up coming down on the side of A Message to Charity is my favourite. Least favourite, Profile in Silver. Couldn't relate. Very honourable mention to Shatterday, which I massively warmed to. Especially, I think TCG persuaded me on that one a lot.
Woohoo!
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good...
I like it when that happens.
No, it's rarely that I ever sit down and think after watching an episode.
So harsh to yourself.
No, but it's true. It's true. I've always said, like, from the first day we started doing these streams, I just sit back and just, for me, like movies and stuff like that's always been a form of escapism. I really sort of sit down and sort of think of the underlying messages. So but it was only when I sort of finished watching this one, I was really pondering it. Like, really, really thinking. I was like, oh my God, this is so much better than what I first thought.
I think it lands a lot more when you're, when you've had a few years in life, it hits different.
Yeah.
We're seeing some appreciation. What would my score be? Well, my overall take for this is that the ideas are actually pretty good. It's the delivery that can be a bit shaky. And you're going to get that if you are doing an anthology series on a TV budget. Shakiness is kind of guaranteed. You've got less money than you'd ideally have, and you've got a lot less time than you'd ideally have. And that factors into the shakiness. So I can't say it's astounding. I think it's better than average. I think we're talking. I think an 8's a 7. I'm probably more of a 7.5 if I'm honest. But I would go back and watch this. And I bet if I had selected a bit more judiciously, I bet we could have probably found some absolute bangers in there. So 7.5 feels a bit fair to me. But yeah, that is everything on the Twilight Zone 1985. It is, as far as I can tell, entirely on YouTube for free. Well, hey. So if you want to indulge your curiosity and send me any recommendations for episodes you found that were particularly good, I would be very happy to hear it, especially if they're scary ones. Because I didn't really find a scary one in this selection. And on the matter of voting for next week's show, because we do have a choice, we will cover both of them, but it's just what order in. And it seems you are not sick of the Twilight Zone, so we will do the Twilight Zone movie next week. A mixed bag, an interesting one, and with quite a tragic history. So watch the Twilight Zone movie next week. And also go and watch Dankula's movie, Count Dankula's video on some of the tragic events on the set of that movie. We will obviously discuss them, but he will have gone in depth. Also say,
The death of Morrow and the children.
Yep. Grim stuff. We will cover it. I haven't actually seen it. It's going to be a first watch for me. I'm very curious about their version of A Tale at 20,000 Feet, because it is one of 3 versions of that story that have been told on the Twilight Zone. And I feel I want to do a special topic on how they will compare. But that will be far later, because we will not get to that until we do the 2019 Twilight Zone and the history of horror anthologies, folks. As you can tell, is quite long. That is everything for this week. Make sure you do your horror homework. Twilight Zone, the movie from 1983. Check out the Real Horror versus Real Horror collab with TCG. It is good. It is covering Rope, which is a fantastic film, and TCG really livens it up with his coverage of the actual case. And I think it's everything. While my voice is holding up, I will thank my guests as ever. You guys are stars.
Oh, it's a pleasure as always.
Yeah, it was a good one. And thank you, chat, for being nice and lively. I hope you enjoyed it. And we'll see you next week. And I don't know, maybe a little bit of Wheel of Fortune. What do you reckon? I could go for it. All right. That is everything. Thank you very much, chat. All the best. Thanks, y'all. Cheers.
Good night, everybody.